Good morning. All right, today we are going to go over the chicken tractors and how I built them. I have three. I'm using two at the moment. This is just going to be, just how I do it. It's not a recommendation, but just some key points that I considered when I did it. But first, we need to get the chickens moved this morning. So we're going to move the chickens. They are on a turn right now, so it might look a little funky when I move these compared to what you think, but we can't go. The full length doesn't quite give us enough time, the 5 weeks or 6 weeks that we put them out in the field. So we do have to do a turn. So I'm in the middle of the turn right now, so you see one a little further behind the other. But we're going to go ahead, get them moved, get them fed, and then we'll talk a little bit about the tractors. Crazies. Do that to help pull them away because they will attack you once you. They're vultures once you put it in. So as you're putting the feeders in, I mean they get, obviously they know what's coming, right? It's their food. So they will like jump your feeder before you even get it on the ground, and they're not real smart. So you could have one get its head under the feeder, and then you get 5 that jump on top, and then they just like lay on that feeder trying to eat real fast and smash that other bird. So I try to toss some away from where I'm putting down the feeder to distract them, that way I can get the feeder on the ground, and then shortly thereafter they go after it. I'll try to get a shot at what I'm talking about here with that. Okay, so I'm gonna do just the method I use just to keep them from hurting themselves by getting pinned under the feeder, because they do go crazy. All right, there we go. That should give you a good angle as I go through this feeding process, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So if I go over here with the feeder, they're all gonna get crazy, and I don't have a good spot to put the feeder down without something maybe getting pinned under. So if I give them some over here, I can sneak in. There we go. Put the feeder down. Check. Okay. Do a quick check. Make sure there's no chickens under there that are going to get pinned down. Their heads can get underneath the feeder, and then everybody flocks on top. And all of a sudden, you've got a chicken you can't even tell. It's got its head pinned under a metal feeder. Generally, they can pull themselves out of that situation, but they really do pile on, and they're big birds. So, plus it relieves pressure on the feeder because you get these guys out here pecking around. And also, if you have, like, I've got this chick down here that has the bow-legged syndrome, and so if you have any disadvantaged chickens in there, that's the only one I've got out of the last 300 chickens I've raised. That's just a genetic thing that sometimes these Cornish crosses have, and it's this bow leg sprawling feet, and they can't really walk. Now that one, she even moves. She gets out of the way when we move the tractor and everything. So she makes, sorry about that. Whoa, she makes do with having that dysfunction, and does okay. And she's smaller than the rest, but she's not super tiny. She's making it happen. And again, you got, as they get bigger here, we'll put more and more out here to pull the pressure off the feeder. And this is a 4-foot feeder, and we only have 50 birds in here, so if you're raising 75, you'd probably have to get the 6-foot feeder and then toss them out. And everybody has their different ways of doing it. I've had no problems with either birds growing, you know, differently depending on who got access to the feeder and who didn't, and I've never had a bird injured as long as I do this and I spread the feed out a little bit. And plus, you know, it's good for them. Then they really start to scratch and they start to get into the grass in this area that we threw the feeder down. Let's chit chat about the actual chicken tractors now and how I went about building them. We have two here that look relatively the exact same. That one is my second one. This is my first one. I threw this up like within hours, just like an hour, probably 2 hours I took to build this. And that was my first one. I was trying to build it off of memory. Wasn't any kind of thought put into it really, outside of just what I've had pictured in my mind. This one I took a little bit more time. I built that so fast because I had chickens last year. I had to get on the pasture and I was running behind on projects. This one here, you can see has its top is flatter, so there's a bow in this one, and there's better support on this guy over here. So let's just take a quick look. These are 8x10. I made them 8x10 opposed to 10x12 because if for some reason my wife was out here and I had other stuff I was doing or whatever was going on, she needed to move the birds, she could handle this one. She would have a hard time handling the other one without a dolly. They just get quite a bit heavier as you move up to the 10x12. This size coop is made for 50 birds. So a 10x12, which is 120 square feet, would be 75 birds, and a 8x10, which would then be 80 square feet, is 2/3 the size. So we're at 50 birds on this one here. You're always going to have a issue with weight even if you are using a dolly. If you don't have wheels and you're not pulling it with machinery, which I never recommend for raising meat birds. Why am I out of breath? I never have an issue with meat birds. If you use machinery, okay, so let's just play this out. So if I had like a trailer hook up here, I had a bigger one, and I had to move it with a tractor or a UTV or whatever, I'm pulling and I can't quickly get underneath. Not only am I going to frighten the birds with an engine, but I can't quickly go, what does that sound? Is that a chicken just squawking because she got a bug, or is that a chicken down here whose leg is caught underneath, right? You noticed on this turn, the turn is way more difficult. It took me 3 times as long to turn than if I was pulling them in a straight line. The straight line, they get it. As soon as I walk up here, they all move to the front. And I just use this rope, pick it up, boom, and I go. Not a problem at all. Once in a while I have a bird that gets distracted by like an awesome piece of grass or a bug or something and gets its leg under there, but I'm moving it slowly by hand so I can quickly stop, back up the tractor a little bit, the bird pops out, and no issues. So I've never had a bird severely injured by doing it by hand and doing it with just paying attention with what I'm doing. If we look at the construction, these top bar, I mostly just have ripped down 2x6s. This one actually might even be a ripped down 2x4. Yeah, that's a ripped down 2x4 on top. The side supports are ripped down 2x6, and I believe the base is as well a ripped down 2x10, 2x4x10 rather. If you see the cross support here, let me get out of the sunlight. So on this one, I added the cross support, or the vertical support there rather, after the fact. Now so you have this angled support here, right? This angled support, the baseboard and the top board are off to the side of the vertical support. On this one, I actually stacked the vertical support in between the top board and the baseboard here, and then I ran the horizontal, the diagonal support rather, I ran it behind. So that is my preferred method how I did this. It's a little more rigid. And you can see the roof line here, we don't have hardly any sag in the middle. So we have a beam here as well. This goes across, and that would be just your center support. And then over by the door, over by the door, I have a little 45-degree angle support bar as well that leads up to this platform that we can put extra food, water, whatever on. And I was letting my kids feed. Sorry, there's like wasted feed here. I know, not supposed to do that, but you know, the kids were throwing feed in there. Wasn't, you know, just trying to get them involved. Not going to be picky with it. This side, the side panels and the roof panels are always aluminum. So aluminum is much lighter, and it repels heat rather than retains heat. So aluminum likes to stay cool. You'll notice that you pick up aluminum can, even if it's not refrigerated, it will feel slightly cool to the touch. And a steel can retains heat, plus it's way too heavy to use for this application. And that's the same reason that you see ripped down boards rather than a full 2x4x10 as the base and the top. That's much too heavy, okay? The point of this is to make it less expensive and light enough to move by hand. Now, if you have a dolly that's got the specialized little hook so that the dolly sits really low to the ground as you move it, you can use a dolly. And you'll see like a Joel Salatin style chicken tractor, he's got specialized dollies for him that they actually like custom made. I just want to pull them by hand. I'm not going to deal with it. If you have a traditional, generally like the traditional dolly, you'll buy it like a Lowe's, Home Depot, Costco, whatever. The back is going to sit like 6 inches or more off, and then you'll get birds that want to escape, especially as they're smaller, if you try to tuck that underneath the back. So what I did instead is I left this tail, which gives me less resistance when I do pull it by hand. I did this on the second chicken tractor. Not only does it fill gaps for predators, but it allows it to glide easier on the ground, you know, and it catches on less things. This one was the first one, and I thought I had to cut that piece of aluminum off because the aluminum is going to be like 27.5, 26.5, can't remember. And it's supposed to overlap at 24 inches, right? So you get some overlap coverage and still get a true 24 inch. So I took the time to cut this tail off, and this one hangs up more. It just does. That tail helps relieve some resistance. This one catches on little mounds, little ant hills or whatever, much more than the other one does. On the first one though, what I did correctly is I have an inch overhang here, so water sheds off to either side and doesn't go down into the coop. It stays on the outside. Now, we don't rain that much in the summer. We're just coming out of some rain right now, and we'll probably have very little rain for the rest of the month here coming up in June. Same, you can see the overhang here. This one, because of the way I built it, I was at a true 8 feet, and so I don't have the overhang. So water can kind of get inside of this vertical panel from the roof and drip in there. Not a huge deal, but anytime you can shed water correctly away or out of the coop, you want to do that. So just something to keep in mind is give yourself a little overhang like we have on this coop, not the way I had on the other one. Now we use 1/2 inch chicken wire. The smaller the better. I don't like heads to be able to get through or predatorial arms to get in. So we have 1/2 inch chicken wire around the side walls. And then I have kind of a mix here because I was running low on wire when I built this. Same with the other one. So we have 1/2 inch mesh and then 1/2 inch chicken wire. On the sides, we have 2 sides fully exposed. It's all about airflow. You're raising these guys in the summer more than likely, and you're gonna have hot days. These birds are hot birds, man. They're carrying a lot of weight, more than your egg layers. You gotta get them airflow. So we have about 2 feet exposed on the third side, 2 sides completely exposed to air, and then 2 8-foot sections of the aluminum panel around the outside. And they generally will sleep right in here, okay? So they want to be protected from predators, away from the elements, and so they'll hide in their 2 hard side walls. And 60% coverage with the roof on each one. So I've got 6 feet of coverage of aluminum, 4 feet exposed to sunlight. A lot of times you'll see this lift gate here, the door, will have aluminum as well on it. This is because when you put the feeder down, if it's raining, they're not trying to eat their food in the rain. And so I tend to, if it's raining, I kind of have to slide it under there. And, you know, not the best to have to try to get them out of the rain and shove food underneath that when I could just have this be covered with aluminum. But makes for a very light, easy to handle door, just having the 1/2 inch mesh on it. So if you get a lot of rain in the summer, you'll probably want to have this door covered up with aluminum, and that way you don't have as much problems trying to avoid the rain. What else did I want to point out on these guys here? Basic construction is the same. I hang the drip waters from a couple of nails, and I haven't given them water yet today, but you can have this one's probably a better example. So on these waters, my lids fell off, and I got one lid on the corner, so I got to clean that. It fell off and a bunch of dust got in here, so I got to clean that up. But I just hang the waters like that, and then I just pull them off, rinse them out every day, at least once a day, and add more water to them. So you can put, if this was a water bucket, a lot of people will put extra water if you do it once a day. That way, if you've got 75 birds in here, you can just have more water supplied to them. You got an extra 5 gallons. They run a little tube from this down into that. Gives you just about, you know, between 8 to 10, depending on how much you fill it up, of water, fresh water for them. Now, I move these birds twice a day. So a lot of times you'll hear people move them once a day, and that's perfectly fine. Once a day is plenty. I like to move them. The more grass, the better. The more bugs, the better. So I move them twice a day, and thus I'm out here twice a day looking at their water, so I don't need to add an additional water supply on top. I generally don't rinse them twice a day. I rinse them once a day in the morning, which is what I'll get ready to do now, and then fill them up. But if it's been a warmer day and they've topped it off, I generally top off the water bucket in the evening, and that way we just make sure we never let these birds run out of that. Anything else to go over here? I think that's pretty much it on these. Let me give you a little bit of a close-up on the inside so you can see the inside of the construction. All right, so that's what it looks like on the inside. So if you're trying to copy any of that, you can get a view. I got a board there to kind of connect the 4 pieces coming in, since we don't want a center ridge pull here for legs or chickens to get caught up on. So that's an inside shot, and we will go ahead and hit the 3rd chicken tractor that is not using meat birds right now. Before we end this video, we'll take a look at that. It's a fairly different style of construction compared to these 2 here. One more quick point on these chicken tractors. So we have a bunch of these, we just call them plugs, right? They're 2x4s. I got this one to lay down behind the whole length of the rear, and this helps fill any gaps that you have. So if you've got a gap, let me rotate out of the sun. If you've got a gap here and it's, you know, more than an inch and a half, you can get either predators that say, okay, that's an area for opportunity, and they can dig, or they can stick their paw in there and grab a chicken leg or whatever and pull them out. So we just use 2x4s, 1x6s, 1x4s, you know, just scrap pieces of whatever, and we use them to plug those holes, especially at night. And like, here's a good example. That gap right, oh, I'm in the sun again. That gap right there I will plug. So that's about 2.5 inch gap. And you're gonna get these in the field because grass and fields are not perfectly level. So just keep that in mind, have some spare wood to use as plugs. Okay, so I've got a couple layers in here, and they're gonna be moving into this once I build a run onto it, because that's mobile. It can be pulled with the UTV. So this is their house. They've been in here too long as it is, but this is the 3rd chicken tractor I built, and as you can see, the biggest design difference is the pitched roof. I like this because when I'm pulling it, I can see straight in while I'm pulling. I don't have to crouch down and look underneath there. I can see straight in, and I can say, okay, don't have any birds getting caught under the backboard or anything. Just lets me have a little bit better line of sight for the safety of the birds as they get moved. The pitch is, you know, helps shed water off to the back pretty darn well. It also lets heat rise and come out of this front. So the back area in there, the back area that's low to the ground stays a little bit cooler. The air doesn't get trapped quite as much. It lets morning sun in so they can warm up the birds. So when they're first going out, you know, beginning of May, we get cold nights here still at that time of year, so they can get some morning sun, and they can kind of get their day started a little bit earlier and get their bodies warmed up. On the front, I got these 2 platforms on either side, so you can hold extra water or put your feet up there or whatever. Different style door. It's a little more, the whole rig is more robust. So everything from the door to using full-size 2x4s in some areas, as well as ripped down 2x6s. These wood panels, these would not be here. I put these up here for the layers because it was colder and I was just trying to keep them a little bit warmer. So these planks, that would generally all be open. It has a little basically lawnmower wheels on it. So those are 6-inch lawnmower wheels, and believe it or not, with combined of the little tail I left on there, like on the other coop, those wheels do help quite a bit. And with that tail on there, you don't have to worry about it being raised up, any gaps that are going to happen on the back. Again, I screwed up here. I should have built this so that extended out a 1/2 inch or 1 inch to shed water better without going down into the coop. But you know, next time make a little more improvement to that. But the wheels do help. So that helps also, because with the weight of this thing, it has to have wheels. So this thing probably weighs 100 pounds, at least more than the other rig. Again, these boards would not be on there if I had running meat birds in it. So disregard those boards there. That's just more chicken wire behind all the way up. So this whole side is generally open. But with the added weight, yeah, you need the wheels if you're going to build something this robust. This thing is quite a bit heftier than the other models. But it is, this thing is also probably going to last longer. I mean, it's really, really built well. So if you like this style a little bit more, it gives you kind of another option to work with. And, you know, like I said, they've all got their pros and cons. This one is a little, even though it's got the wheels, it's not as lightweight even to move. So the wheels make it doable. Now you can get the wheels that have the little lever that flips up, so you press the lever down and the wheels lock and raise up the back, and then it makes it super easy. They got bigger tires on them. But you know, that adds an expense. So the whole idea is trying to be lightweight and economical with these systems, so that, you know, if you are raising the birds on a larger scale for income, you're not spending $1,000 on your initial coop and takes you a long time. You should be able to do these for a few $100. You know, finding scrap wood and whatnot with the expensive new lumber, it can be a little pricier than it was when I built these beginning of last year. But this is just another option for you. If you like this, you can go this route or something else. And these aren't the end-all be-alls by any means. These are just what I mean, I didn't look at any plans or anything for any of these coops. I just kind of had something in mind off of things I've seen other people do, and I just built them on the spot. So hope that gives you a little bit of ideas, a little insight into things to consider. Always you're looking for lightweight, you're looking for cool, you're looking for inexpensive. Cool as in keeping the birds cool. And you also want to make sure they are able to get sunlight, and you know, you got to be able to move it. So all those things are important to consider. So hope you enjoyed the video. Catch you next time.